What is up, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time NBA edition here on a Saturday night. We've got 5 NBA games for you on the docket this evening, and we'll take you through them here over the next half of an hour. Before we get to lineup lock, we got 4 games starting right at 8 o'clock Eastern time, so shouldn't be too much in the way of news that we don't know by the time these games start. Of course, it's been coming out pretty heavy here over the last hour. We've got Giannis sitting for Milwaukee tonight. We've got SGA sitting for the Thunder tonight. So lineups are going to look a lot different now than they did maybe earlier in the day. So to break it all down here, I am Justin Van Zuden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got TJ Zwarich alongside me. TJ, how's your day going? I know there's been some football sweats going on already today.
Yeah, I was talking before the show last night before bed. I hand-built 100-plus NFL lineups for today's Saturday slate. Going pretty well so far. The Browns and Colts defense were my 2 highest-owned Ds. KJ Osborne I got to about 25% of today. So a couple things that are maybe not super high odds to win first place, but should at least get me some decent money back today. I got to say, it's cruel on behalf of the universe that we're not even on a Sunday show together. We're on a Saturday show together. And we still have to start the show within seconds after a Ravens loss.
Yeah, it's the second time that's happened in about 4 weeks, I think.
I think that's the third. Like, I think the last 3 Ravens games, we've started shows like immediately after.
It's that's okay. It's the way the schedule breaks, I guess. But yeah, they did not play well. At least this one is easier to take than the one where they lost on the 2-point conversion against the Jags. I mean, you got your backup quarterback, and he's terrible, and they just did nothing. So whatever, easy one to brush off and move on, and hopefully they can get Lamar back next week. But that was a pretty ugly game after the thriller that was the biggest comeback in the history of the NFL in the first game this afternoon, with the Vikings coming back from a 33-0 halftime deficit to beat the Colts. Wild stuff. We'll see what the Bills and Dolphins do for the nightcap. But I guess we got to get into the NBA slate here tonight. And I do the core plays article on the weekends. I'll probably go through the cash game discussion here and then have TJ drop in the tournament takes. We'll take your questions in the RotoGrinders Discord. Of course, if you're watching, this is free all year long, sponsored by Fanduel. And we appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button there if you're watching on YouTube for bringing this content to you for free all winter long here as we get to the heart of the NBA season and the heart of the shenanigans season, I guess, with, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander both being ruled out tonight. The Thunder have released a starting lineup, which I'm convinced they just pulled from straws in the locker room to determine which 5 players would start. It's just incomprehensible, kind of what they do with their rotations on a nightly basis. Trey Mann was kind of the guy that most people figured would be the biggest beneficiary tonight, but who knows what they're going to do. So just in general, before we get rolling here, what do we make of the news? It's obviously more of a stars and scrubs slate than it was earlier today, and what are we doing with the Thunder?
I mean, Trey Mann could still have a very big game, and so if I'm playing lots of lineups, I'm still getting to a lot of him, but it's a Saturday. Everybody's focused on football, hanging out with their family. It is sure tempting to just get an absolute ton of Isaiah Joe today. Almost the exact same price as Trey Mann. Since we do the refresh, he's projected for more points than him. I'm interested in some Isaiah Joe for tournaments. I don't think that many people are going to be getting to him just because I don't think we're going to have that many people on the ball for the news today. But this Thunder team is definitely the most interesting spot for value today. We got Milwaukee with a ton of value, Dallas with a ton of value. Interesting slate today. I think there's going to be a few ways we can differentiate in tournaments, but I think one of our best ways will be to maybe get on some of these Thunder starters like Joe and Amorui. However you say his name. It's cool, very cool looking. I apologize for butchering the pronunciation, but I think some of these non-chalky OKC guys are going to be very interesting for tournaments.
Omarui was a stud at Rutgers a couple years back in college. He kind of helped get Rutgers back on the map. But yeah, it's. I mean, Trey Man was going to be the lock and load. Now I'm kind of debating. I had the core tag on him. Probably gonna remove that just because of the uncertainty as far as cash games go. Do you need to play Trey Man in cash games now? I would say. I mean, obviously he's not starting, and I don't think you do. So I will probably remove that here next time I get a chance. But
At this
uh,
point, you're probably looking at Trey Mann, Isaiah Joe, or Kemba Walker. Like that's kind of going to be, I feel like, the spot that a 1v1 that can make a lot of differences tonight.
Yeah, for sure. We had Man projected for 32 minutes and 31 fantasy points a while ago. You can see we've now come down to 23 on that. And I am multitasking and taking the core tag off of him. So I think that it just doesn't make sense to try to risk all those guys in cash games. If you end up needing to play one, it's really anybody's guess. But you've got enough options at point guard. I mean, you got Drew Holiday now with Giannis out, Middleton's out as well. You've got Chris Paul against New Orleans in a game that I think Phoenix is really going to want to win tonight. We've got enough value at the other positions where you can probably get Ja Morant in there. A nice mismatch for him against what's left of the OKC backcourt. So maybe it ends up becoming point guard is the spend up position on the slate just because, we don't know what's going on with those OKC guards. Man is 4,100 on FanDuel. Joe is 4,200. I definitely agree with pivoting to Joe in GPPs if the ownership doesn't catch up. But if I had to pick one in cash games, I'd probably still pick Trey Man, but I don't feel nearly as good about it as I did a half an hour ago. So maybe point guard ends up becoming the spend up spot. Shooting guard, I do feel good about Jalen Williams. He's probably my first cash game choice from the Thunder now. He's 5,200. He has been playing well. And that can get you a value option there at shooting guard. And also at small forward, you've got two shooting guard, small forward eligible guys with Tim Hardaway, Lucas sitting tonight, and Grayson Allen with Giannis and Middleton both out for the Bucks. So that's where you can start to get some value. Maybe Lou Dort if you want to. I guess he's reasonably safe as well. Maybe you pair one of those guys at shooting guard with Devin Booker. Don't mind playing both Booker and Paul in cash games tonight. I don't think it's mandatory that you play them both, but certainly don't have a problem with it now that we've had more value open up. There's nothing much to add at small forward. The position was relatively weak early in the day. So now if you're playing Hardaway, Allen, Dort, probably play them at small forward instead of shooting guard. If that helps you get Booker at shooting guard, I think that makes sense because there's really not a lot of spend up options at the small forward position. You can see if you sort the small forwards on FanDuel by salary, the first 8 guys are all extreme negative RG values and low smash percentages. So definitely small forward, not a position where you want to spend up. I'd probably end up on something like Allen and Hardaway in cash games. And together they only cost you $9,300. The power forward position, I think at power forward and center really is straightforward. I think if you can do it, you get Zion, Portis, and Christian Wood. Christian Wood finally had a great game the other night. Now they've got Luka sitting tonight. Powell is out, so they have no choice but to play him big minutes. He's always been a good permanent producer. So Wood at 6,500 I think is a lock for cash games. I think Portis is as well now that Giannis is out. And then if you can get up to Zion, which you should be able to because there's not a ton of elite spend ups. Like the highest dollar salary guys on the slate were Luka and Giannis and then Ja Morant and then SGA. 3 of those 4 guys are out. So there's only 2 guys in the 5 figures on DraftKings or on FanDuel that you can spend up for. So I think you can definitely get up to Morant or Zion and fit the value guys around them. A little bit less excited on the OKC value now. If I had to rank my interest in them for cash games, I would probably put Jalen Williams at the top at this point, given the starting 5 that they've announced. So that's kind of my take on cash games on FanDuel. How are you approaching tournaments over there?
Not that different, to be honest. In single entry stuff, I would just try and get different a little bit by, making that late swap to Isaiah Joe, finding ways to mix and match some of my backcourt players in there. And some of the ones that I'm interested in getting to today, like Drew Holiday is my favorite. but I don't mind the idea. I just truly believe that ownership is not going to swap quick enough here or 20 minutes before lock on a big football day for people to get to more Kemba Walker and Isaiah Joe than Trey Mann. And so I really like that for tournaments. Big fan of CJ McCollum today. I think he could have a very big day. But my biggest kind of stand I want to take here is at forward. Like at the small forward position, I like Dortz, Allen, Amori, all of these guys, but like Hardaway I think is my favorite. And at the power forward and center spot today, I'd be tempted, no matter how many lineups I was running, to lock these three: Zion, Wood. Oh, whoops! Why do I have Olenek here? That was an accident. That's supposed to be Bobby Portis. There we go. Zion, Wood, and Bobby Portis. I'd be tempted to lock them in 150 of 150 lineups. Just they project so much better than everybody else at these positions. Why don't I just try and eliminate that half of my lineup and just all of a sudden, or that third of my lineup, sorry, and all of a sudden I got 6 players to fiddle with for all the rest. I think that's a very interesting approach for MME GPPs. And then if you are not wanting to do the full lock, something I think is a incredibly interesting pivot today is setting a rule in lineup HQ. My thing is running a little slow as I'm trying to screen share, so it's not letting me scroll up and down, but go to lineup HQ, set a rule, exactly one of these players in every single lineup, and you make it Christian Wood and JaVale McGee. You end up getting 90% Christian Wood, so you're over the field, and he's going to smash unless what? This is a massive, massive blowout, or 2, he gets into massive foul trouble, or 3, he gets hurt. In any of those situations, you look at Dallas's team today.
There's not a lot there.
Guard. They got Finney Smith. They can run it some power forward, but like, is Finney Smith going to be their small ball center in this lineup? If something happens to Wood, McGee is going to have to play high 20s minutes. And even at this point, we haven't projected at 17, but that could easily be 22. At this price tag, he could have a slate breaking performance at that price. So I love the idea of getting 90% Christian Wood, 10% Bobby Portis. You're over the field on Wood, and you 5x the field on JaVale McGee, who could potentially break the slate at that price on such a small slate.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting angle to take for sure in tournaments. Like you say, just going off the board with 1 or 2 guys often makes the difference on slates like this, just because there's not a whole lot of spend up spots. If you're going truly off the board, I mean, do you really need to leave salary on the table? I don't think that's necessary tonight. So just going for those 1 or 2 difference makers in those tournament builds tonight, I think makes a lot of sense. Anything else that you want to mention for tournaments on Fanduel?
I think that's it for me. Let's make the pivot over to DraftKings, where we got some pricing differences. And so I'm interested to see where your priorities lie for cash games here today. We got 3,300 Isaiah Joe, 3K or Trey Mann, Jaden Hardy at 3K. Like these OKC values are at a bit different of a level on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel.
Yeah, they are, and I mean they all grade out well. If you just sort by OKC, you can see we've got like 6 guys there with a green smash percentage, and it's largely because almost everybody is cheap. I mean, Jalen Williams is 4,600, Dort is 5,100, Joe 33, Omarui 3K, Poku 3,900, Trey Mann 3,000.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just got to say, I adore Poku today on DraftKings.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it makes it great for GPPs because you can mix and match these guys. The problem is that OKC has been so unpredictable with their rotations, with their minutes, that it's so hard to just come up with here's the guy that you want to play. And the weakest position on the slate is without a doubt small forward, and that's definitely the spot where you're going to be saving. So, you can get Jalen Williams there. I think that helps. You can see we've got him projected the highest. I think Jalen Williams would definitely be in my cash game lineup on DK at 4,600. And I probably end up with one of these other guys. The problem is figuring out who. I suppose by default, I think it's Isaiah Joe in cash because we know he's starting. He's probably going to handle the ball, and he's 3,300. If Trey Mann was starting, it wouldn't even be a discussion, but he's not. So I think it's Joe and Jalen Williams for me from the Thunder, but I'm with you on Poku and even Trey Mann. I think they're fine tournament plays. Just wish we had a little more clarity on how they're going to handle those minutes. So I think
With
those
all
are the two.
Yeah, sorry, you finish that off. You're good.
You're good. I think those are the two guys I end up with in cash games.
And so with Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams becoming priorities for cash games, this late breaking news here, confirmation, Kemba Walker starting, all this different stuff happening with OKC. How do you prioritize your other core players that you had tagged here, Grayson Allen and Chris Paul? Are they still cash priorities? And then who are you looking to fill out the point guard, center, utility position, some options?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still playing Chris Paul, though. All this has broken so fast that if you have enough value with the OKC guys that you feel comfortable with, if you can go from Chris Paul to Devin Booker or Ja Morant, I think that's fine. If it works salary wise, I have not had enough time to mess with that to see all the optimal combinations. That Phoenix game is the one game that starts a little bit later, but I think for sure you're playing Wood, for sure you're playing Portis, for sure you're playing Jalen Williams. He probably ends up with a core tag. And then from there, I don't necessarily think that Chris Paul is a 100% mandatory roster. I still think he's a fine play. Grayson Allen, again, I still think he's a fine play with Giannis and Middleton out. But if they're 100% lock and load, maybe not necessarily. I think Portis and Wood are the two that definitely are, and probably Jalen Williams as well. So if you lock in those three guys, if you go with Portis, Wood, and Jalen Williams, you've got 65-80 to spend for your other spots in your lineup. And then let's say you're going with one of the cheap guys for OKC. So maybe it's Isaiah Joe at shooting guard because that position is relatively weak. That leaves you with 7,400. So that's very easily doable. And even if you stick with Chris Paul and Grayson Allen, that's fine. If you go with, say another punt like a Kemba Walker with Ja Morant, similar type of salary. I don't have a strong take on whether I would stars and scrubs that, or if I would go with kind of the more balanced approach. Like people are going to ask those types of questions like Ja Morant plus Kemba Walker or Chris Paul and Drew Holiday or something like that. It's a really tough question to answer. I usually lean towards the safety of the mid-range guys, but I do think it's pretty close tonight. Other than that, I mean, the viable guys are all pretty similar. The front court priorities are the same with Portis and Wood. They're both power forward and center eligible. Again, if you can get to Zion, he's fine. Probably not getting Zion and Morant. Maybe you can. Zion and Morant together is doable if you feel pretty comfortable with a Kemba Walker or another value piece from OKC. So how are you treating DK for tournaments?
So I do want to make a quick cash touch as well, just to see if you agree. I'm not going to fill out an entire lineup, but for me today, I actually do have just like a very strong stance. So the people don't have to do this by any means, but I feel very strongly that this is how you begin this is the build on DraftKings today. Prioritizing Hardaway Jr. Not Chris Paul, Drew Holiday. Prioritizing Tim Hardaway Jr. at the shooting guard position. Prioritizing Drew Holiday at the point guard position. You got 4,850 left to mix in your Lou Dort's, or you can go very cheap with the 3K guys like the OKC value or the Justice Winslows of the world, guys like that. But I feel very strongly this is kind of the optimal start to your lineups. And because it's not overly all that chalky in some of these spots, Drew Holiday still remains my favorite tournament option on the board. Tim Hardaway Jr. is somebody I like getting to as well. I mentioned briefly Justice Winslow. He's starting at 3,800. He's very interesting. And then I think my favorite OKC player for tournaments today is going to be Alexei Pokusevsky on DraftKings. If I'm choosing between spending up for Paul and Booker, I'm trying to find the salary for Booker. I saw a question in the chat earlier, somebody about Jock Landale, questions about Biombo and Landale. I think they're both fine as a last piece, but I prioritize Pokashevsky and Justice Winslow, 2 players in similar ranges, over them today. However, I do like both of the Phoenix centers over somebody like Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, the Phoenix Biombo, particularly on DraftKings, was like the chalk value when I first did the article this morning, and that became irrelevant by the time all this news came out. You just don't need it in cash games now. And it's interesting because there will be a lot of 2v2, 3v3 discussions, and a lot of that is personal, personal preference, how you feel about some of these guys. Like, it would take a lot for me to absolutely say you have to start a cash game lineup with Tim Hardaway. Some of that is bias. And some of it is just, I don't trust him outside of the scoring, that if the shot's not falling, even though he's going to have a lot of minutes tonight, I don't love the matchup. So that's why Hardaway doesn't have a core tag. I mean, but other people would probably do that. And it's not necessarily wrong, because this slate is a little bit tricky with not knowing how OKC is going to treat those value guys. So kind of a personal preference thing on Hardaway. He's definitely okay at 4,900. But I would stop short of, just like I am kind of now with Chris Paul, of calling him an absolute must.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it would fit fine as a cash game build, kind of what you did there. And Holiday, if I was 100% sold, I would have given him a core tag over Chris Paul. If I was 100% sold that I think his minutes are locked in. He's missed a couple games with an illness. And again, I still think he's fine, but stop short of giving him the tag just in case, he's not ready to go his usual 35 or so minutes tonight.
I agree with you, and they're not necessarily core musts. We're going to get down to the 2v2s, 3v3s. Yeah. That's my personal lean on the 2v2, 3v3, but I agree with you. Like, I can't call somebody wrong for wanting to go Chris Paul instead at almost the exact same price over Drew Holiday, Lou Dort over Tim Hardaway. Like, these people are so closely projected, so close in price today. We got 150 people watching, almost only 20 people hitting the like button. We get this up to 50, then Cards will lay out exactly the specifics of what he thinks Lamar Jackson should be offered as a long-term contract for the Baltimore Ravens.
$999 million, whatever it takes at this point after watching the offense without him.
Not till we get to 50 likes, Cards.
Sorry, I'll change my answer then. We do have a few questions rolling in the Discord. If we've got some time, we can grab some from the YouTube chat as well. But we'll certainly prioritize the ones in the RotoGrinders Discord. If you are not a premium subscriber, check us out at rotogrinders.com and you can get into the NBA Crunch Time Discord. Yappy Cappy, first off on DraftKings tournaments. For your utility spots, multi-entry, would you find yourself using more point guard or more double center builds tonight?
One of those two. Either a point guard or a double center, or if it's nice and cheap, somebody like Justice Winslow. I just more. It's less about position for me, and it's more about I see me using my utilities for 9K and above, or below 4K.
Yeah, definitely makes sense as far as, I don't get too hung up on the positional requirements as well when I'm kind of building, but it's certainly a night where you can use two centers if you want to, though most of them are power forward eligible as well. So, all right, Carolina guy, Fanduel single entry, Holiday or Morant tonight? And I presume, Holiday saves you a little bit there.
In a vacuum, definitely Morant, but I like Holiday better point per dollar, but raw points, it's definitely John.
All right, another GPP question from D-Rock. If I already have Allen and Portis, would you play Holiday or Chris Paul?
In cash, I don't really think. Or sorry, was that GPP?
You said GPP, yeah.
Yeah, then I go Chris Paul.
All right, this is kind of one of those types of 2v2s that I thought we'd get, with Achilles asking in DK Cash, Drew and Kevin Porter or THJ and Morant. So even though I kind of just laid an egg on my love for THJ, I do think playing Hardaway with Morant makes more sense than Drew and Kevin Porter. I'm not huge on Kevin Porter tonight. I think Drew is fine. But if it helps you get Morant, I am fine with playing THJ in that lineup. D-Rock also said he hopes our son is doing well, and he is. Thankfully, he had an infection in his leg that lasted a good week before we finally got an antibiotic that helped kick it. And he's good to go. Went back to school this week, and everything is on the mend. So appreciate you asking, and he is thankfully doing well. And visiting Grandma and Grandpa tonight, so a little quiet time for Mom and Dad, which is helpful after a stressful week. All right, you guys are hijacking the YouTube chat talking football. How's the weather in Buffalo? I have not looked yet. We'll have to see if.
Oh my gosh, have you not seen it?
No, well, I mean, I saw earlier that there was a bunch of snow.
It's still happening. Like, it's been storming the entire time. There's people in the stands. Just the chairs are absolutely covered in snow, and there's been like people there bundled up in Santa suits just sitting there early. Like, it's wild how much it's snowing there, and so that's terrifying with how much Bills in Miami I have today. But oh my gosh, I was feeling so good when I thought when I thought Minnesota was just gonna lay an egg, because then no offenses would be big today, but hopefully Buffalo still has a day.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins, the good news is they practiced with the air conditioning all the way up, and it was like 60 degrees. So, that's totally got them prepared.
I mean, the last time these two teams played, they put up, 70, 80 points, and it was literally like 110 degrees, and guys were getting IVs on the sideline and passing out. Like, these two teams can put up some points even in subpar conditions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. A couple more questions in the Discord. Yappy Cappy QQ, can TJ fall out of his chair again? We'll see if that happens before the end of the show.
I don't know how that hasn't been clipped and put on Twitter yet. Like, that was all time.
NBA DFS says Grayson Allen or Carter in FanDuel Cash. I do think Grayson Allen is the cash game play. Carter certainly interesting for tournaments tonight, but Grayson Allen I think is the cash game play. Arlo says DK Cash. I am finding that using Hardaway leaves my utility spots ugly, so I'm rolling with Connor Joe at shooting guard. Do you guys like Joe for cash? I think he's fine. It's kind of one of those types of builds that we walked through earlier with, maybe that one OKC value helping you kind of round it out. And I think Connor Joe is fine if it helps you get everything else that you want. All right. Let's see. We've got about a minute left until lock. I don't know what's up and down at this point, trying to keep tabs on all the updates here, but I don't think anything. I'll do one last check here. You mentioned the confirmation that Walker is starting, so that's Walker, Hardaway, Bullock, Finney Smith, and Christian Wood for Dallas. Conley, Clarkson, Markin, and Vanderbilt, Olynyk, no surprises for the Jazz. Lillard, Simons, Hart, Winslow, Nurkic for Portland. Holiday, Carter, Allen, Portis, Lopez for the Bucks. Porter Jr., Green, Gordon, Smith, Şengün for Houston. Morant, Conchar, Brooks, Jackson, Adams for the Grizzlies. And then that wonky starting five of Joe, Dort, Jalen Williams, Omarui, and Poku for the Thunder. Still waiting on confirmation, but no surprises expected for the late game tonight in Phoenix, which is the only game that starts an hour after lineup lock. All right. By the time this comes through, it'll basically be locked for everybody. So appreciate everybody joining us tonight. TJ, anything last minute from your end before we get out of here?
No, that is going to be everything for me. Cheer hard for Buffalo and Miami to be high scoring despite all the snow in there today. And then I hope NBA goes very well for the people tonight as well. I got a busy RotoGrinders day tomorrow. We obviously always got you content covered for content on NFL Sundays, but for me specifically, I'll be on Showdown Expert Survey tomorrow, NBA Expert Survey tomorrow, and then Grinders Live. I'm hosting in for Dean in the morning with Bobby G and Kirkwood. Then we, of course, have the GPP and Final Take show, the Crunch Time show, Premium Lineup HQ with yourself, then I'll be back on for NBA Crunch Time later, and then our Sunday tradition, you and I will be locking down the pre-lock show for Sunday Night Showdown as well. So busy day tomorrow, and lucky for
I hope
all
that
the
game
viewers.
doesn't suck. I haven't looked at the Sunday night game, so this is about to be a Christmas present because I don't know what it is yet, and I'm about to find out. It's the Giants and the Commanders.
Oh, no.
That's a good game for the playoff race. I don't know how great it is.
Yeah.
They tied the first time they played. It doesn't get more exciting than that. So,
you know what? One of my very best ball teams for NFL on Underdog has Daniel Jones and Geno Smith as my 2 quarterbacks. And so Geno kind of had a bad week this week, and so it's all on Daniel Jones. I'll be cheering hard in that one.
Sorry for your loss. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully Daniel Jones comes through for you. But we'll break that down tomorrow night before the game. And good luck with all your NFL and NBA lineups tonight. I am out of here. TJ is out of here. Steve, thank you for producing behind the scenes as always for us. He is out of here as well. We're going to call it a night. We'll be back tomorrow. Busy day, as TJ mentioned, here on RotoGrinders. Check us out at scoresandodds.com for all your sports betting needs as well. And we'll catch you back here tomorrow, everybody. Have a good Saturday evening. See you later.